You guys are watching Helgen Tech, and today I'm going to be going over the OnePlus N20. This is the little device that came from OnePlus, and it came out in April 28th or so with a nice AMOLED screen that's 6.43 inches. It's got a 1080 by 2400 pixel display with a 20:9 ratio with 409 ppi density. It also has always on display, Android 11, Snapdragon 695, which is mid-range, expandable storage, 128 gigs of space with 6 gigs of RAM, and you get a 64 megapixel camera, a 2 megapixel macro, and a 2 megapixel depth. So we're going to see what this thing is about. So it's got a beautiful AMOLED display, which they actually sacrificed some things to be able to get this display to be this good. It's one of the most color accurate displays that I've seen, and especially in a budget phone. There's a lot of budget phones that actually are a little more powerful, but this thing sits at a $300 price range, which isn't bad at all. And we're going to be going over some things, and I'll tell you what I like about the phone and what I truly don't like. Let's get to it, guys. Alright, right off the bat, when you guys turn this thing on, you're going to realize it has a very nice screen, and most of you are going to be pretty shocked that this little phone can pack such a nice screen in it. But like I said, they did sacrifice a couple of things, and they made it better. If you go into your display settings, you get options over here to adjust your brightness. You can either have dark or light mode. Dark looks better and actually helps save battery life a little bit. Now you can adjust which way you want the screen, if you want it to be gentle or vivid. I personally prefer vivid. I think it adds it just makes it look a little bit better. I'm not sure if you can see the difference in the camera too much, but go vivid with just about any phone that you get. So you got other settings here where you go to your screensaver, and you can play with those things whenever you want. But the main thing is, when you guys get this phone, you're going to be really impressed with the screen, because this little phone packs a punch on the screen, and it's very impressive. It's only a 60 hertz panel. It's not 120 hertz or anything like that, but it's very, very nice. And again, it has always on display, which you can set up and you can see it. It's not as customizable as LG phones or Samsung or anything like that, or it's like more in the pixel category. Pixels don't have the most customizable lock screen or always on display, but it's still there and it gives you an option, especially for the price range. I think always on display should be in every phone. So it looks good for a 60 hertz, no issues whatsoever, and I'm already impressed in that category, and I think a lot of you should be too. Now, this phone's actually way bigger than it looks, but realistically on the hand it feels super small. It's about 6.30 inches long, and it's not even huge, but when you hold it, it just feels so much smaller. Here it is side by side by a pixel, and you guys can see it's actually almost the same size. Not much of a difference. It fits in the pocket super nice, and that's one thing that I love about this phone. The display is 6.43 inches, which is also not the biggest, but it's almost the whole size of the phone. So you get a lot of display, you get a bottom chin at the bottom, but it looks very well lit, especially next to a Pixel 6 Pro. When you take it inside, you'll notice a bit of a difference. You're going to realize that one has 60, one has 20. But what I really want to talk about, and I mentioned earlier, is the color accuracy. Here we have Twitter on both phones. A little Twitter on the N20 and the Pixel 6 Pro. Look how white the screen looks on the N20. And that's something that's beyond impressive. I never realized how warm the coloring was for my Pixel 6 Pro when I had this phone. And it's the same thing with my S22 Ultra, same with the Pixel 6 Pro, and same with a lot of different devices. And it's the color accuracy, it's fantastic. This AMOLED screen that this little phone packs for the price is beyond impressive. And that alone makes you want to keep the phone. So we're going to go to Amazon and just open something else to show you. And here it is again. You notice the color difference, especially on the white. How it looks warmer on the Pixel 6 Pro, and it looks a little bit cooler, but not to the point where it's over exaggerated. It just looks so much better on the N20, and I'm really excited for it. The screen alone is my favorite thing on this device, and I think it's very color accurate, and I give him props just because of this little display that he managed to fit in this phone. It gets the job done. It's only a 60 hertz panel, and it's not the biggest resolution or anything like that, but it gets by. I know they compromised a couple of things to get this display in there and the price down, like having a bottom speaker that's very weak and it doesn't do much, and once you cover it, you just can't hear too much. So we're going to play that in a second so you guys are able to hear what it's able to do with that speaker at the bottom. Now I'm going to apologize, this audio part is completely separate, and there's a couple of audio issues with cars going in the background and me having a sniffly nose and heavy breathing to the whole thing, so I do apologize. But here, you guys can see, it sounds pretty decent. One speaker at the bottom, it's not half bad, $300 phone, so that speaker at the bottom is going to get the job done, and some phones sound okay with just one speaker. It's just unfortunate, once you cover it, you can't hear much. So hear it again. Looks like it got it again. Let's see. Let's open Amazon. And now we're gonna go ahead and cover that bottom speaker. And once you cover it, you can see the huge difference. $300 phone, you can't really complain, but the audio could be so much better. Again, $300, it is what it is. Now, one of my favorite things about this phone is that it comes with a 33-watt power brick. A lot of phones you buy, especially flagships nowadays, don't even have a power brick. So 33-watt charger gets you a full day's power in just half an hour. So, and it's pretty accurate. It charges pretty quick. So it's just, the phone's compatible with it. It gets the job done, and it comes in the box, and you barely pay a lot of money to get that out of it. So that's a huge plus in my book. And I think just for that alone, you should consider this phone, because it comes with a typical OnePlus cord with the red cord and then the white ends, which is pretty cool. It's not C to C, it's type A to C, but it's still fantastic. And I give that a 10 out of 10 that they included that in the box. More phones should keep doing that. I think everyone should have a power brick in the phone. So speaking of that, the battery life on this thing is pretty good when I compare it to a lot of these other phones. Now, when I say battery life can be way better than these other phones like the S22 and the Google Pixel 6 Pro, it does have a 60Hz screen, and it does have a more efficient chip that is not as powerful. But again, I could be at 67% here and still have a whole bunch of battery life. If you guys download this app over here, Accu Battery, it tells you all your stuff. I can drop the link down below so you guys can have access to it. But here at 67%, I still have over 6+ hours of battery life, and I can easily get about 9+ hours of screen on time and charge this thing a full 50% in about 27 minutes, which is not half bad at all. 33-watt charger does help a lot. But good battery life can get anybody to buy a phone despite every other spec. So I compared to my Google Pixel 6 Pro, and it definitely does last way more. My Google Pixel 6 Pro, sometimes I don't even get 5 hours of screen on time, and I'm an extreme heavy user. YouTube running all day, multiple apps running all day. It's really unfortunate, especially the fact that they advertise 24-hour battery, and that's not the case at all. This thing can sit down for 13 hours straight without even being used, and the battery will still be there, which is fantastic. Now for the cameras, a lot of people are interested in the cameras. We do have a triple layout, and the main sensor is a 64 megapixel camera that is actually pretty solid. Can't really complain. And then you have a 2 megapixel sensor and a 2 megapixel depth sensor, which are gimmicky. And if it helps us keep the price down of a phone, just don't throw them in the phone whatsoever. So the camera app works pretty quick. It's pretty snappy. You can snap a lot of pictures by holding down the shutter button. It's very smooth, actually. You don't get too many options. You get a couple of things to do and play with, especially when you record. You can only record up to 1080p, and you get 720 and stuff like that. It's nothing too crazy. I'm not going to go too much into the video settings of this, but it's pretty basic, and it gets the job done. So you get a couple other settings and things to play with. You go all the way to portrait, you get it more. You can get a couple of cool settings. You can have one that's dual video, and with the dual video, you're able to record yourself and whatever's in front of you. Now, here's a couple of sample pictures in broad daytime, especially in the morning. The camera looks really good, and it's got fantastic color accuracy. Sometimes indoors with the proper lighting, it does look really good. I don't have any footage or anything with the selfie camera. It wasn't too great, in my opinion, and I didn't want to include those pictures in here. I looked awful, but it gets the job done. Doesn't have too much contrast, and sometimes in some scenarios, it looks a little bit washed. But overall, the color accuracy is pretty solid, and it can get the job done for you. If you're looking for a phone with a solid little camera for a budget price, it'll work out for you, and it's not the worst. Now, overall, if it's the phone you want to get for your kids or someone elderly that you know, I think it's a fantastic phone for that. Or if you want to have a backup phone that you want to spend a lot of money on, I think it's the right way to go. But we got phones like the Google Pixel 6a that just came out. I think that's the better option. But it's up to you guys. You make the decision. It's a solid little phone that I actually truly recommend for certain reasons, but if it doesn't meet your criteria, I will completely skip out and just go for the Google Pixel 6a, or find a mid-range phone that is around $500 and it has the specs of a flagship. There's a lot of options out there. Solid little device. I actually really enjoy having it. I like the design. It works really well. But again, there's a lot of better options, and you guys make that decision if it's right for you or not.